In this video, we're going to continue solving applied problems that result in systems of linear equations. This video is an example where we have two equations but three variables. As usual, after reading the problem, think about four steps. First, you're going to define the variables, be specific. Second, you're going to figure out what types of information you have and organize it in a table. Third, you're going to set up your equations, report the augmented matrix, and use a calculator or technology to solve the system of equations. And finally, state the solution in a complete sentence with appropriate units. If there are fewer equations than variables, like in the example that we're going to see here in a second, where we have two equations but three variables, we will not be able to find a unique solution where we just have one value for x, y, and z. The two things that could come up is you could have no solution or infinitely many solutions. And when you have infinitely many solutions, you're going to write a general solution or a formula for a solution, and then possibly give specific values that work for that formula. Let's read through this example. Karen has $25,000 that she wants to invest in three types of accounts: a CD, a mutual fund, and a bond fund. The CD earns 2% per year, the mutual fund averages 8% per year, and the bond fund averages 4% per year. Karen is hoping to have a total of $1,250 in earnings. Find a formula to allocate the money in terms of the amount in the bond fund. Then report three possible allocations. Once again, the first thing we're going to do is determine what our variables represent. And if we read our problem, it usually tells us in here what they're wanting specifically. So in this example, it says find a formula to allocate the money in terms of the amount in the bond fund. So we need to know how Karen is going to allocate the money into these three different funds. I'm going to let my three variables be the amount in each type of investment. X is the amount in the CD, Y is the amount in the mutual fund, and Z is the amount in the bond fund. Next, we're going to organize our information. We have two types of information that we're given. First, we know that Karen has a total of $25,000 that she wants to invest, and we know we're only putting it into the three different things. We're putting it into the CD, the mutual fund, and the bond fund. These are our columns in our table, and then we always have a total column. And so our CD, the amount that we have in the CD, is X. We called the amount in the mutual fund was Y. The amount in the bond fund was Z. And these need to total to $25,000. So this gives us one equation, X plus Y plus Z equals $25,000. Next, we have information about the earnings for each type of account. We know the CD earns 2%, the mutual fund averages 8%, and the bond fund averages 4%, with the amount of earnings total needs to be $1,250. So we can write the equation 0.02x, this is the earnings from the CD, plus 0.08y, this is the earnings in our mutual fund, and 0.04z, this is the earnings in our bond fund. These need to total to $1,250. We don't have any more information. We aren't given a relationship between how much needs to be in each of the account. These are the only types of equations that we're given. We are not going to be able to find a unique solution because I've got three different variables and only two equations. Here is my system of equations. When I go to make my augmented matrix, remember I'm going to have one row for each equation, so my matrix is going to have two rows. Then I'm going to have one column for each of my variables plus another one for my right hand side, and so I should have a 2 by 4 matrix. The reduced row echelon form of my matrix is going to be this matrix here. Notice I have ones on my diagonal and I have zeros above and below, but I don't have another row so I could have a 1 in the Z column. Next, we need to figure out what this means in terms of our general solution. I'm going to take each row and rewrite it in terms of an equation. When I take that first row that I've circled in blue, it tells me 1x plus 0y plus 2/3 z equals 12,500. And so I get this equation here. See if you can do the same thing for this second row. Did you get 0x plus y plus 1/3 z equals 12,500? Hope you did. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take our two equations, and if we look at them here, we can see that they both have this z in them. And I'm going to solve my first equation for x and my second equation for y. So we're going to get x and y in terms of z. So if I move this 2/3 z over to the other side of my equal sign, I'm going to have 12,500 minus 2/3 z. And doing the same thing for the next one, I'm going to get 12,500 minus 1/3 z. So our general solution for our system of equations is going to be any x, y, and z values that follow this pattern, where my x values look like 12,500 minus 2/3 z, my y values look like 12,500 minus 1/3 z, and my z values are just z. So we can find the amount in our CD or the amount in our mutual fund, all in terms of our amount in our bond fund. Let's come up with a couple of specific examples of ordered triples that would work for this scenario. If we try out z equals 3,000, this would give us the amount in our CD would be 12,500 minus 2/3, and I'm plugging in that 3,000 right here. So that would be 10,500. The amount in our mutual fund would be 11,500, and the amount in our bond fund would be 3,000. So I'm going to find another possible one using z equals 9,000, and I challenge you to find a third solution using whatever value you want for z. One thing to note here is because I have everything's divided by 3 here, I'm going to choose values for z that are divisible by 3 so I end up with whole numbers. Using z equals 9,000, I end up with $6,500 in the CD, $9,500 in the mutual fund, and $9,000 in the bond fund. That's it for this video. Hopefully you found it helpful.